And Scott, we got our road commissioner. Judge George, thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for coming, each and every one of you, joining us this quick press conference we are putting together in our Fort Bend County EOC, particularly in light of what is happening. Heavy rains and flooding have devastated northeast part of our county, especially Houston and beyond. While we are grateful for Fort Bend County not being in that situation, but ensure that our residents are informed and we continue to communicate with our residents. That's what we do the best. We just want to make sure we are engaging our citizens, we are communicating with our citizens. We have been doing that, but also it is very people can misunderstand the situation or take it lightly because there is no major weather. You don't see a lot of rain and things like that happening in our area. This morning, Fort Bend County Emergency Management Center, Emergency Operations Center is activated at level 3 as heavy rain predicted for Saturday. And a level 3 activation means that the EOC will be staffed with the key personnel needed to manage any weather event 24/7, ensuring our residents are well informed and remain. That is a top priority. It is crucial that everyone understand the potential threat possibly coming our way or our area can face. One of the concern, as I mentioned many times before, given the fact that Fort Bend County almost 30% of our residents are foreign-born, which include me. It is important we reach out to people and explain to them what to expect, because we remember the Tax Day and Memorial Day flood so many years ago. So this is kind of the same scenario we are approached with. We are going to be sending out community alerts, frequent updates, using our all social media platforms, and we are committed to make sure those information we are putting it out there are accurate and vetted to the best of our ability so that people can rely on that information. The concern, as I mentioned, we are going to be facing is a lot of sunshine. You see that, and after Saturday rain, we don't have much rain at all. We cannot afford, underestimate the threat posed by Brazos River. And also, you might have heard there is a couple of alert. Alert came out from National Weather Service to river flood warning in Fort Bend County, and we are watching it, and you will hear more about how we are going to address that from our OEM manager, Greg Pabst. And so we are watching the situation 24/7 very closely, making sure we are understanding the situation, and also we are conveying that message with our citizens. The current conditions indicate a slow and steady rise of river water level, which we have been monitoring for more than 6-7 days now. Forecast suggests that we may approach minor flood stage by the end of this week, Saturday onwards. And with the expectation of rain, there is also a possibility that the river rise impact will peak as early as Friday, May 10th. In Fort Bend County, we recognize the importance of proactive, and I said this before, I'm repeating, proactive measures to safeguard our citizens and mitigate the risk associated with the flooding we possibly can face. That's why we are mobilizing our emergency response team and implemented a comprehensive monitoring effort to track Brazos River's water level and anticipate any potential impact in our low-lying areas. So also I should say, unlike maybe a long time in the past, we are definitely communicating with every jurisdiction in Fort Bend County when it comes to municipalities, MUD and LID and special district, and you name it. All these stakeholders, we have been having many conference call and constantly communicating with them so that we all are on the same page and communicating that information. They are communicating with their base or I should say, their platform, putting it out on their platform. So with that, I will ask our Fort Bend County Office of Emergency Management Manager, Greg Bobs, to come and give a little more details on what to expect next coming days. Thank you. Greg.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon. From the Emergency Operations Center at Fort Bend County. We've been watching this weather since it happened last week. We've been in constant vigilance of the northern counties and watching the impacts that they had. We've also been watching the declarations that the state's been putting out through the Texas Division of Emergency Management and following those closely to make sure that our county is added and represented well as this floodwater heads this way. We've also been looking at resources as the state's been collecting those up north to battle the waters and the floods that these northern counties have been experiencing. With that, we've offered to the Texas Division of Emergency Management to host any resources that the state needs down here in Fort Bend County to be prepared. Again, as the judge mentioned, we like to be very proactive here at the Emergency Operations Center. Currently, as the judge mentioned, we're at 2 flood warnings. Those flood warnings are for the Sugar Land 59 turnaround area, and also, and that's for the gauge at that 59, and at the Roche-Sharon gauge for the Brazos River. The levels at that point on why this flood warning is there, again, the drainage district will give a better report than I can, as we rely on them heavily, and we have been relying on their reports heavily in the Emergency Operations Center since last week and been pushing those out. But they'll give us a little bit more better detail on those. But it's minor flood warning. It's those low-lying areas. So we're just going to re-emphasize that. We are not an emergency state currently. We are the watch and a warning state. And what that means is, hey, watch those rivers and then watch the weather as it comes in. And then, as we always say in the Emergency Operations Center, be prepared. So have your go kits ready just in case you have to evacuate. Those 72-hour kits that we push continuously, have that set in a plan to get out. And then if you are going to then not evacuate, you're going to hunker down, what's that look like, and get all those supplies that you would need to be able to hunker down. If we put out those emergency warnings, right? We're not at that level yet. Again, just want to make that note. We're at a watch. We're watching that weather. Predicted weather for Sunday is the concern right now. There's supposed to be a heavy forecast of rain on Sunday. If you look at the National Weather Service, they're pushing that out currently, and we are constantly watching that and making sure that we are ready. And then as the rivers are high, we're watching those levels as they increase. I want to mention we flew some drones yesterday, and we posted on our social media site on Twitter and Facebook what those river levels look like with some drone footage to get some people aware at what the crest of those rivers look like currently. So please jump on and take a look at that. I'm going to push out again. If you want to be alerted for any type of weather in this county, go to FBC Alert. You can text 888-777, and then in the text box put FBC ALERT, FBC Alert, all one word, and that will get you to be able to sign up. Or you can go to our website, which is fbcoem.org, and you can sign up for our alerts there. You can also get all of our social media pages there so that you can follow us. We are constantly putting all the messaging that we have and the warnings from the National Weather Service on our social media. And then again, that's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I mentioned our webpage. If you don't have access to internet or the capability to do that, you can always call this office and we can give you those updates. Our phone number is 281-341-4665. And again, I just want everybody to stay vigilant, stay weather aware, and watch those river levels and follow us on social media or give us a call and be ready and be prepared.
Thank you, Greg. Next, I will invite Jeff Janashek, our Assistant Chief Engineer for Drainage, who will definitely have more specific information about the river level and also all the gauges we just mentioned. So I will invite Jeff. Jeff, please come forward.
right, thank you, Judge. Again, my name is Jeff Janacek. I'm with the Fort Bend County Drainage District, and as the judge and Greg said, we've been watching the rainfall and the response of the Brazos River for about a week now. It's important to note that the flood that we're potentially going to see, minor flood stage this weekend, is really from rainfall that occurred a week ago. So we've had a lot of time to watch it come downstream. Primarily the Navasota River is the watershed that was hit the hardest, and it enters the Brazos River just upstream of Navasota. We have a gauge that we watch closely at Hempstead, right at Highway 290 in Hempstead, where the Brazos River crosses, and we think that it's within about a foot of peaking. It should be tomorrow that the flood will reach Hempstead, and it'll peak in Hempstead. When I say we watch it, what we watch is river forecast. So there's a group out of Fort Worth called the West Gulf River Forecast Center, and they're constantly monitoring flow rates as they move downstream and making reports every three times a day to update all these different forecast points. So that flood wave will make its way through Hempstead. It will go down to our San Felipe gauge, which is just upstream of I-10. We anticipate a peak at San Felipe of 118.6 feet above sea level. A good point of reference is just 3 months ago in January, we had a pretty significant flood on the Brazos as well, and we peaked at 117.9 at San Felipe. So we're thinking less than a foot higher with this flood event. So another 2 feet of rise at San Felipe, and it'll make its way down through Simonton, Valley Lodge, Orchard, into Rosenberg, and then the Richmond gauge. We've got a lot of history at our Richmond gauge. Anybody that was here during Harvey knows that's our primary point of focus for a lot of our flood forecasts. The current forecast for Richmond is to get to a stage of 44.5 feet. That's just below minor flood stage, and we have a really good handle on the potential impacts tied back to that Richmond gauge. At minor flood stage in Richmond, we anticipate water approaching some local roads, minor roads. The local authorities know those locations well. We've been through this a number of times, and they've been watching it honestly for 3 or 4 days now, just watching the river creep up. It's rising about a foot or two every day, and we anticipate a peak on Saturday of, again, 44.5 feet. We've had some questions come up about the Sugarland gauge. There's a new gauge that's about 3 years old. We put it in after Harvey at Highway 59. And one of the unique things about that gauge is the new gauge is tied to sea level. And so it's a little bit deceiving, the elevations, because they call it 67.3 is the peak. And when you compare that to Richmond, it shows to be higher. But it's important to note that those are on different datums. The Sugarland gauge is tied to mean sea level. The Richmond gauge is a stage gauge tied more to depth of flooding rather than mean sea level. So they're not apples to apples, and you can't do a strict, straight interpolation between the two. They're two unique datums. As the judge and Greg mentioned, we had a minor flood warning come out today for the Sugarland gauge. Again, that gauge is fairly new, so we're still working on getting what's called the rating, tying the elevations back to specific flow rates refined at that gauge location. And we're also tying flood impacts at different levels. We don't know quite as much about that, but it is forecast to reach minor flood stage. And again, there potentially could be some low-lying areas and roads like that that could be impacted. But for the most part, with the current forecast, it should be relatively minor. And as you work your way downstream, we have a gauge at FM 1462 at Rosharon. And that gauge is forecast to peak at 46.5. We also had a minor flood warning come out about that one. But again, primarily just low-lying areas, a lot of agricultural, more pasture land down there that potentially could be impacted. And for comparison, the January peak at that location was 45 feet. So we're thinking about a foot higher than what we saw in January. So every day at 9 a.m., usually at 3 p.m., and every night about 9 p.m. is when the new river forecasts come out, and we can tell you that we're monitoring those closely, hitting refresh on the computer constantly, watching for those new flood forecasts. We'll take that information in and we'll broadcast it out to you as soon as we know more. But for the most part, the last 3 or 4 days, everything has been pretty steady. We're expecting minor flood stage, local impacts, but continue to monitor things, particularly with the rain and the forecasts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As you can see, different entities we are bringing together. We are coordinating, we are communicating with people, so that's the best way to address this issue at this point. I wanted to invite one department. When any kind of emergency happen in Fort Bend County, one department always get in front, and many times, otherwise you don't even see them, which is Road and Bridges. And I wanted to invite Scott Wiegert, our Road and Bridges Commissioner, to come and give us a brief about what they're planning. And they are always behind the scene planning and mobilizing things for various jurisdictions. And I really greatly appreciate all the work they're doing behind the scene. Many times you don't come in the front. But Scott, please come and give us a briefing on your preparations.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. As I said before, we'll be working very closely with emergency management, with Greg and Jeff with the Drainage District. We'll be monitoring all the levels and watching them to see what's going on. We're also working with all the jurisdictions within Fort Bend County. We're also with other counties surrounding us, Brazoria County and Austin and Waller County, and also with TxDOT. We'll be working with them, communicating with them. We'll be anything where needed as far as any water, low water signs, water over the road, anything that would affect the low-lying areas, which that should be the only areas that are affected, and they're really common to us, and we know those, so we've already got a lot of that area staged for signage and ready to put our signs out, ready to go. But again, we're working with all of our other jurisdictions. We'll work, if we need to be, we can work with the mud districts, with the lid districts, anybody that will need assistance. And we're also going to be helping out with the city of Simonton and Valley Lodge. If they have some issues that come up over there, we'll be fully staffed and ready to assist there also. But like I said, we're here, ready to go. We have all the signage, everything needed, and we'll work closely with emergency management and drainage and assist in any way needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I repeat, as you can see, we all are coordinating with every jurisdictions and those who have any role in any kind of emergencies, we are coordinated. And I just wanted to say to our residents, as Greg already mentioned, please, if you haven't done already, please sign up for our FBC alert. It is 888-777 and punch in FBC alerts to the message area and send it, so you're going to receive any kind of update regarding this weather and any kind of notification in case of an emergency happen in Fort Bend County. And this system enables us to provide you with critical information quickly in a variety of situations, such as severe weather, unexpected road closure, and more. And at this point, in closing, I wanted to say this. I wanted to assure our residents, this is the promise from day one I came into office, and I'm saying it, I'm repeating it again. The safety of our citizen is our number one priority, and we never deviate from that thought. And so we are trying to do this press conference and other way to communicate with our citizens. We wanted to continue to let you know that we are working behind the scene. We are monitoring the situation, as you heard from the Drainage District, as you heard from the Road and Bridges, and also our OEM manager. And so we are continue to work all these jurisdictions together. Any information important to you regarding this weather event, we will be communicating. And you heard this before, but I'm just repeating it again. Make sure you are getting the information from the right resources, and especially, which is most of the time the Office of Emergency Management, National Weather Service, and our office, and all these individuals and departments have their own platform. So watch those information so that you could make the right decision. Hopefully everything is going to be okay next few days, but we are again communicating with you. With that, I will conclude this presentation. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Yes.
I have a question in terms of the gauges. You said one's at sea level in Sugar Land, and then the other one is like the more traditional, like just measuring the height. Is that just an updated technology, or will the previous gauges that we have, say, at Richmond, stay the same, or will they go to that sea level database in the future?
Sure. So any new gauge that you add, typically they try to tie it in to mean sea level. The Richmond gauge, we have data back to 1884. It's a very historical gauge, and the impacts tied to the different stages we've known them for a long time. The community knows them. They know that 55 is a big deal at Richmond. And so we hesitate to change that to mean sea level, to take away all that previous knowledge. We've had discussions about adding both elevations, sea level and stage at Richmond, and particularly after this event, that's probably something we'll revisit with the United States Geological Survey and the National Weather Service to look at updating that.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
This is a question for Scott. You mentioned some of the areas that are pretty common for flooding. Can you talk about some of those places where crews are staging and some of the locations?
Yes, sir. We have a few areas. There's a couple of areas that are along the Brazos that we know are going to be low-lying areas, and they'll come in, and it affects a small portion of the roadway, and it doesn't ever block any people. It doesn't lock any people back in to where they can't get in and out. What it is, we'll put a barricade on both sides just for safety reasons for the individuals that come through. But it's probably a handful of roads that we have throughout the county, and a lot of them are in the lower back areas of the subdivisions that border the river. So a lot of those they're very common. We're used to them, and matter of fact, we already have barricades laying on the side of the road ready just to put them up as needed, so.
In that regard, any of them off of the top of your mind that you might be able to share?
There's one or two that it's back in off of 1462, back toward the river, back that way. In the Pecan Bend subdivision, there's one little minor road in the very back that goes under. But it doesn't, like I said, it does not keep any traffic from moving in and out. The residents can safely get in and out. There's one or two other little areas around which may not even affect us in this flood area, but around our Kennelton area, we have a couple of roads back that are close to the San Bernard River that will be impacted by the high water. But again, we have barricades there ready to go if needed. So, but they're minor areas, but there are trigger signs to let us know that to get ready. If it gets worse, that's our first trigger signs to let us know what's going on.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So this flooding that you're monitoring, it's a result of rains that are coming in this weekend and also flooding from up north traveling down this way, correct? Through like the Navajo.
That is correct. That is correct. Anything else? And thank you for coming, and especially in a short notice, and thank you for being here. And let's all get together and send this information out so that our citizens can make the right decision and be safe. That is the bottom line. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Sure. Thank you, guys.
I know, right?
Want everyone to know their lids and mud.